Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 36 today for the Belgium Grand Prix in Season 2. If you did miss the previous episode, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But the Belgium Grand Prix should be a pretty decent one for our car. Of course, we're still technically the best car on the grid, trying to maintain that as much as we can at this stage of the season, having just re-signed essentially 2 episodes ago, in this kind of intermediate stage where we're saving up money for the next big HQ upgrade, which I feel should be one of the big performance parts of the HQ. So we're kind of having to build a lot of money because a lot of those next Spec 3 upgrades are like $15 million. And obviously we also need some headway money in terms of for the end of the season for the teammate re-sign. So with that, putting the brakes on and kind of stationary in that kind of regard when it comes to those upgrades. But going through the activity timeline, not too much time to actually choose between ahead of the Grand Prix. We've also got a press interview coming up. So we're going to choose the two days, the simulator training, and then also the sponsor events, try and boost the team acclaim slightly if we can. But as I said, for the first time in a long while, actually, we'll have a chance to speak to Will Buxton. So let's see what he's got to ask us in terms of where we are as a team, because I think the last time we did an interview with him was at the very start of the season. It was a very different position we were in back then compared to now.
Well, it's great to be back at your headquarters, and I've got to say, an awful lot's changed since we were last here. Let's dive in with some questions. Your team's had their first win in Formula 1. Is this a sign of things to come?
Yes, I do think it's a sign. Obviously, it is a sign because we've had multiple wins, not just one. But in terms of the answers we can give here, just about complimenting a department, really, instead of actually talking about it. So just going to go ahead and compliment the chassis one, I guess.
Your second driver looks to have been really busy recently. It's always good to see that level of dedication, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously, Sainz has been a great driver for us. With this one, I thought we could try maybe boost our acclaim, potentially. But apparently, real no effect there on the bottom.
Would it be safe to say that, in terms of team orders, your career comes first in your team?
And then we've been asked this, unfortunately, many times before, and the same thing applies. I mean, obviously, team rules don't apply to the team because Sainz at this stage is one more racer than I have. So if it was really my team, my rules, I don't think I would have let that happen. So a claim I was going to opt due to that answer.
It's been wonderful to spend some time with you. Best of luck out on track.
Likewise, Will. Likewise, although to be fair, some of those questions were a little bit samey, unfortunately. But I guess that's what happens when you get through into at least the second season of career mode, unfortunately. But we come through now to the season break, obviously, because in real life, this is when the summer break would be. So we take that and we come through now to the race weekend, having got some extra cash there. And the resource points, of course, we're going through to the next week. In terms of developments, we've still not got enough R&D points to really splash the money and R&D on any new upgrades at this stage. So I'd rather wait. Also, because we're getting towards that kind of almost the last third of the season, nearly in like 2 or 3 episodes time, I want to also be cautionary about where the R&D reset may come through into Season 3. Because remember now, for us, and also even some of the top teams here, we're already quite deep into the R&D tree. So if anything gets reset, that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be a lot of resource points needed to adapt all of those parts. And if we can't adapt them, we'll lose out big time in Season 3. But not even just next season, even this season still. There's still a long way to go. And Mercedes, as you can see, if you look close enough, have upgraded their car for the first time in a long while. So the R&D race for this season is still not over. Yes, we've got a cushion in the championship in both senses, drivers and constructors. But I'm never going to just get a little bit too complacent because you just never know. They could make some mega upgrades now, build some momentum. Maybe they've just been saving R&D points this entire time. You just don't know how the AI have been playing this. So we need to make sure we also have some R&D kind of floating about, some points floating about, just in case we need to make some little minor upgrades at the end of this season, just to keep pace and make sure we can score those points to, well, hopefully try and go for that championship, as we are now basically very much in a championship fight now. There's no getting away from it anymore. We can't deny we are in the fight, and at the moment we're leading the way, so we need to try and keep up that momentum. And so, speaking about keeping momentum, it was an interesting Grand Prix for us last time at Hungary. It was a poor qualifying, mistakes there, hopefully making up for it this time by not making any of those mistakes on Saturday in qualifying here, as we now enter Q1. Very overcast, I must say, but there's actually no rain forecast for the entire weekend, so just kind of doom and gloom. So hopefully there's not a sign of things to come, hopefully, with the weather kind of portraying the emotions of this weekend. Race-wise, the pace was really good in Hungary, so I'm not really scared about that. It's really just trying to sort out this qualifying, which, to be fair, has never been my strong suit, but last episode was a real weakness in terms of making that mistake in Q3. So making it through into Q1, was quite surprised how low down Verstappen was there, actually, in the Red Bull car, but the Merc's looking strong, so, I'm wary with that upgrade, even though they're not the best car on paper yet. You know, the fact that they're so close to us, the closest they've ever been on that R&D chart, means that you never know, circuit to circuit, their car, depending on where they upgraded for this weekend, it may just suit their strengths, and they could still actually be the fastest car, you know, in actual, you know, practice, because of course that's what's happened to us a few times. But we make it through into the third part of qualifying. Then Q2 was much better for us. We're top of this session. Hamilton a little bit lower down than I thought he would be. Sainz at the moment 2/10 off her, so looking pretty decent. The Ferrari's looking strong though as well, and Ricciardo looking pretty nifty in the Red Bull car. But now as we go through the top 10 shootout, the sun is fully out, so hopefully it will be shining down upon our team across the line. P5 behind Sergio Perez and Ocon, so not a very decent lap. It was only a little bit slower, 10th or 2 slower than our Q2 time, but everyone else has gone a lot quicker, so I guess the hotter temperatures maybe on track, helping everyone improve track evolution, coming in maybe a little bit. So now we've gained nearly 2 to 3 tenths, that is actually, as we kind of yo-yo about on the delta time on the top right there, on that second one, very close to the wall on the right, into the brakes and for the bus stop chicane. We always lose a bit of time under braking here. The AI are so much better than me to getting it slowed down and carrying momentum, but across the line we just gain under 2 tenths, but it's only enough for P7. And as it stands, Carlos Sainz is in P5, but at the end of the session he jumps up into pole position as he was yet to set his second flying lap. So massive improvements for a lot of people there, and we are again mystified by the qualifying pace. Obviously he's 94 rated from last episode still, so Sainz doing the business here, and like was almost the case in the very first win for the team at the Dutch GP, he's outqualified us by 8 tenths to get on pole position. I think we actually qualified in the same position at Zandvoort in P8, but very surprised to be outqualified by a McLaren at Ocon there, and just to see kind of everyone right up there, you know, Ricciardo, Vettel, nice mixture with a Hamilton then in P4, so bit of a head scratcher. But again, you know, like we've said, the race pace will be there. I feel like we should be able to recover. Again, it's just qualifying is a weakness for me, and it just makes my life more difficult in the opening stint. Before we get onto the grid then, in between qualifying and the race, Claire finally asked me who I want to choose as my next rival. Of course, we had Sebastian Vettel. We beat him, I would say comfortably, but he actually, to be fair, gave us a good little fight here and there. But now we get to choose one of the big boys in terms of the Mercedes guys, and we're going to go for Lewis Hamilton, even though apparently it's a low difficulty. I think that's just because our car is the best car on the grid, so it's saying low difficulty, but it's never going to be a low difficulty to beat Lewis Hamilton's AI, ever consistent, although to be fair, in the last few episodes, he's actually been rather inconsistent and allowed us to have a bit of a cushion in the Drivers' Championship. But we're going to choose Hamilton as he was the closest same car to us in the championship, so it only makes sense there. So let's go to the grid. Our teammate on pole, beating us by 8 tenths. We've got a lot of making up to do and show that we have the same pace in the car, and it could actually be quite a tasty 1-2 fight potentially, like was the case at Zandvoort when we were in the same situation. So let's go to the grid and see how we do.
Welcome along then to the Belgian Grand Prix, the race that gave us the maiden victory for the Jordan team in 1998. And in the same team, the phenomenal debut of a young Michael Schumacher. There's always something special around one of the many corners of this fan favourite circuit. Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix. Let's talk briefly about Esteban Ocon. They've had to change their gearbox. It's never a good start to a Grand Prix when, right off the bat, you have to contend with a grid penalty.
Well, at the end of the day, it's always better to take some pain now than parking it up halfway through the Grand Prix. Let's just hope they can put that new gearbox to good use and get the results they're looking for.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo, a strong showing from the Australian. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Vettel, Hamilton, Charles Leclerc and Bottas. The owner driver, Perez, Albon and Esteban Ocon. They've taken a grid penalty. Kvyat, Gasly, Nobuharu Matsushita and Russell, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Kevin Magnussen and Roman Grosjean. Aitken, Verstappen, Latifi and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today?
It's still very much looking doom and gloom at this stage on Sunday as it's overcast. It will get sunnier though towards the end of the Grand Prix. So like Saturday, maybe by the end of it the sun will be shining and we will hopefully be beaming also in the cockpit as we move or look to move forward. That's the hopeful plan. It will be a one-stop. For some reason this season it's telling me to go from soft to hard, even though last season apparently our car was fine to do soft to medium. So I don't know why in the strategy screen here it's thinking like our car's got worse at tyre wear, when in fact it's only gotten better due to the chassis upgrades we made. So even though it says hard tyres, I probably will be switching that on the fly to mediums, because I think that worked fine for us last season. It'll just be a case of trying to measure when we come in for that pit stop to make sure we try and judge, not having too much tyre wear at the end of the Grand Prix on those mediums, but also at the same time not losing too much time on the worn softs in the first stint. But at the start of this Grand Prix, I don't think we're going to be thinking about tyre saving at all, as we look to just try and push hard and catch up to that man on the left-hand side on pole position as we go to 5 red lights, and we're underway for the Belgium Grand Prix in the second half of this F1 season here in Season 2 of My Team Career Mode. Good start for us that was to get Bottas into Turn 1 though, trying to drift it through really into the apex of Turn 1. Leclerc managed to re-overtake us. He's the only man in the top 10 on the medium tyres, so he may be trying something very interesting this afternoon, maybe a very audacious medium to soft tyre stint, which may pay him quite good dividends at the end of this Grand Prix on the low fuel, of course. It's we worked for us a few times before as well, but at this stage now looking to just keep on the back of him. Vettel hustling and harrying the back of Ricciardo. That is, he's side by side with Hamilton. Meanwhile, look at the minimap there, and just in the distance you can see Sainz bolting away already. So those guys fighting up ahead of us is not helping our fight versus our teammates. We try and go to the inside of Leclerc. It doesn't really work out there. Very awkward, as twice I have a little look, but Leclerc just closed off the door quite late there, and actually instead Bottas is right on the back of me. Need to watch out for that. Trying to use some ERS there to get away. But what I just mentioned there with Sainz getting away is what I was kind of worried about, and you can see very clearly now on the left-hand side there in the minimap, Sainz has got already a sizable, I'd say, at least 1 or 2 second gap as Ricciardo attacked Hamilton. It didn't really work out for him, so Hamilton's in P2, Ricciardo P3. Of course, Verstappen was taken out of this entire top fight equation due to a grid penalty, so it's just those two, and then the 2 Ferraris line astern in P4 and 5. Can we try and get Leclerc early on? Of course, he is on the medium, so we should be quicker in the corners, and off the exit there, we're quicker in a straight line as well, using plenty of overtake mode. You can see on the bottom right there, double tapping as we go through Blanchimont. Little bit of a rear end squirm for Vettel there, and we're very fine to the grass as our former rival from earlier on this season gives us a good old squeeze. We're side by side now, very nice racing here, wheel to wheel stuff, banging tyres actually as we went through the bus stop chicane, and perfectly you saw there just ran out of ERS as we crossed the line there. So that's the kind of perfection we need on the deployment, but it's easier said than done every single lap. But we've overtaken those 2 Ferraris in quick succession. Of course, they're not really on pace. They haven't really been to us toe-to-toe for the last few episodes now, so not really too surprised. But now is where the real race begins. Can we try and catch Ricciardo and Hamilton? Much quicker cars. We've seen the Red Bulls had the pace for race wins as it won last race, and Mercedes with upgrades this weekend. So let's see. On lap number 3, we have set the purple second sector, and we have gone fastest of all anyway on the previous lap. So in clean air, got some pace, but now can we get anything done in the traffic, as I have a bit of a deja vu PTSD flashback to when we almost rear-ended Sainz at the Austrian Grand Prix just like that, and then it all went obviously pear-shaped after that with the spin. Thankfully this time around no one attacking me from the rear end there. Leclerc nowhere to be seen to go side by side with me and spin me round or force me into an error there. But again, it's been an odd characteristic of the AI this year, I feel. I don't know about you, if you guys feel the same way, but sometimes there's just a few corners where I feel like they break a little bit early from what their car can do, and you very much either rear end them or have to just go wide and avoid them, which is not something that happened in 2019, so a bit of a shame in that kind of regard. Sometimes in the brake zone they've gone a little bit worse than in the last game. So we survived that on the previous lap, and hopefully this time around the same sort of area in the circuit, we're going to catch him a little bit earlier now as we get a good exit. Not the fastest second sector, but got held up a little bit, I feel, with the dirty air as we closed up to Ricciardo. But now look at the closing speed here on the Red Bull, even with the upgrades from the Red Bull Honda side. Our Honda engine much more powerful careful, using a lot of ERS, a little bit wide there, as we get a warning for extending, even though it was on the curb, so I've already lost some time and momentum through that left-hander. But we go waltzing around the outside of the Aussie man up into P3. So at the moment, already probably looking likely it's going to be a double podium for the team. But can we try and do anything to make it a 1-2 and then potentially swap that 1-2 round? We've had some good pace in the first 5 laps, gone from P8 to P3, so that's good progress. But now trying to catch the Mercedes car, we're quite a little bit way back, but you're going to see the true power of our engine with ERS deploying at full pelt, because we use overtake mode all the way up Rouge that was, and Radion, and a bit more then, a second bite of the DRS and also the overtake mode, and we absolutely fly past Lewis Hamilton there. Purple first sector, and for good measure, obviously probably the fastest we're going to go in the first sector, with all 3 combinations banging away on the engine side of things. So now really technically we've got 17 laps then to see if we can do anything about catching up to our teammate Sainz, who's got about a 1.5 second gap to us up ahead. He's going to come in, I believe, earlier than us, because of course he's got the kind of first call on the pit stops, and there you go, lap number 6, he's in. But also, I also think he's probably going to go into the hard tyres, remember, because our strategist, for some reason, Jeff, has laid out a default soft to hards. I don't know why, because we did a soft to medium last season. So I'm going to continue on, try and stretch these tyres a little bit more, and also just want to try and confirm as well if Sainz has gone to hard. So I, for the very rare time, I use the actual onboard feature of being able to speak to my engineer, and I asked Jeff about the teammate status. He says Sainz is on a set of hard tyres, as he's talking away in the background, confirming that to me. So we take these tyres all the way to lap number 8 then. So a full 2 laps, probably more than Jeff really wanted us to, but it's going to allow me to try, hopefully feel a little bit better on the mediums at the end of this stint, basically. That was all I wanted to do, really. But into the lead now of the Grand Prix goes Leclerc, the only man who was, as I said, in the top 10 on the set of medium tyres. I think he's probably going to try medium soft, so watch out for that Ferrari man. He might be quite quick at the end of the Grand Prix, like we've kind of done in a few episodes gone by, you know, being on the fastest tyre and low fuel. To be fair, it's actually quite a nice strategy. I wish we could have technically done it this race, actually, from P8, but obviously we got locked into the softs, having qualified on them in Q2. But we're out onto an equally good set of yellow wall medium tyres. I think they'll be a much better race tyre than the hard tyres, and I think with these tyres on, we can go and chase after that man, Carlos Sainz, who is ahead of us at the moment, technically in a net race lead, but at the moment on track, on the road, he's P2, we're P3. Can we try and overtake him as we close up on lap number 10, 2 green sectors? Will it be enough to maybe go fast of all once again with another purple lap as we close in within 1 second? So DRS available to us on the exit in through onto the next lap of the Grand Prix. And there you go, 3 green sectors, but a purple fastest lap of the Grand Prix yet again. So we're showing some great, sublime race pace as per usual. But, you know, Spa, one of my favourite circuits actually in the last few years, especially in the F1 game. It just gets more and more flowing with these kind of, you know, better cars, the high downforce. You know, Sector 2 especially, a lot of fun, and Sector 3 with the slipstreams always been quite fun in the F1 games. We look to go around the outside, tyre on the grass, on the outside of Blanchard, having to lift off a little bit there because I wasn't too sure how much room I was going to get with Sainz and how much he was going to squeeze me on the outside, because he did give me a good old squeeze onto the grass before we entered that left-hander actually in the last sector. We've run out of ERS unfortunately, and also it wasn't the best chicane there for me as I kind of got a drift going on as my rear tyre got snagged on the curb as we went from right to left there, so having to stick behind Sainz, but shouldn't be a bother. I think that should actually be the better place to be, to overtake him now up the Kemmel straight. But at the moment behind us, Hamilton sets a purple lap time, so the other guy's looking pretty quick as well. So let's not count our chickens too early. There may be more people involved in this top fight, you know, if me and Sainz hold each other up too much, which I hope is not going to be the case, as we now go barreling down this straight and overtake him with ease on the left-hand side there. Purple first sector for good measure, and now it's the question of how can we get away from him, and the answer is going to be, well, no, surprisingly, because Sainz is very good. He's 94 rated, so I'm not really surprised at the fact he's sticking with us. And as always been the case at Spa, at the Belgium Grand Prix on the F1 games, the slipstream's so powerful, and it's very easy to re-overtake cars, and also at this moment in time, also having to make sure we're looking after the ERS and trying to tactically deploy it in the best place I feel possible. So for me, that was not really deploying too much in Sector 1, trying to stay ahead if we can, like this, and then we can use it in Sector 3 to kind of push away. But just got to be careful about that, because it's going to slowly drain little bits, and we don't want it kind of, you know, stopping halfway through the lap, obviously, and using too much in the first sector. But saying that, Sainz has given me a real hammer on the first sector. He's real quick down here, especially off the exit of turn 1. Gets a lot of traction picked up, and he goes for another move now for the second time in this second stint on the outside there. We're going to be neck and neck, so close on the left there, where Hamilton and Rosberg came towards in 2014. It was, thankfully for me as the team owner as well, that's not going to happen this time round, but Sainz is going to try and overtake me, and it's a big old dive there. Very impressive stuff, and he's got his nose in, and we've got to kind of leave in the room because he's still alongside it, so we're still at it side by side to this entire section. He gets a great exit. We have to keep on using some ERS now at a place at the circuit where I don't really generally use ERS, through Puon on the exit, trying to switch it to the left maybe to get the job done, because it will turn to the inside for the next left-hander just like this, and just trying to feather the throttle and get it a little bit ahead with a massive tail end loose as we hit some oversteer, and this is really becoming a great scrap, and it's even better that it is legit for first place on the road, because Leclerc's actually pit by this stage. He's actually behind there on a set of soft tyres, and actually you can see how much time me and Sainz have lost each other as it's bunched up. It's now 2 by 2 as Ricciardo tries to overtake Sainz. Hamilton v Leclerc, and it's all getting rather frosty as the top 5 is covered there by 2 seconds, which is really just insane on such a long lap like this. Into turn 1 now, lap 17. You may have noticed we actually on purpose slowed down a little into that corner, trying to get the Wily Old Fox move going here on Sainz, getting DRS back off him, because it is a highly effective way to re-overtake your opponents, to let him through at turn 1. Obviously, we even saw the F1 Esports drivers try that last season, but here we are now, DRS open and going on the right-hand side. Easy does it there, back up into first place. Still a 1-2 for the Albert Archer Racing team. Ricciardo 3rd, Hamilton 4th for the fast lap, but I'll be very surprised if Leclerc doesn't steal that, because he's in P5 in a pretty decent Ferrari, but crucial on the soft tyre compared to all of us on either mediums for me or hard tyres for these guys. But now look at this, Ricciardo v Sainz, they're neck and neck. That's going to help me get away a little bit, but Leclerc in the background is going to want to try and pass all these guys, because if he can get into that clean air that's now behind me currently, he will be able to chase after us on the best tyre on the grid right now. And actually, hang on, in the background, Sainz's pits for some reason. Did he get some damage, I wonder? Through Blanchimont, maybe? Maybe we've made some contact with Ricciardo in the brake zone. We didn't really see it there because it was quite a blur and there were so many cars packed together. That's a calamity for the team then. So Sainz has pits. It's no longer going to be even a double podium for the aarava Archer Racing team, as he's going to be way down the order. So that is a massive issue for the team. We're going to lose a lot of constructors' points there. Thankfully, we have the cushion, obviously, in the championship, but that's still not what you ever want to see, really. So as it stands now, myself in first, Ricciardo second on the hard tyres. Third place, I think that is Leclerc in the Ferrari. Yes, it is. So Leclerc has some clean air now to chase after the Red Bull. To be fair, the Red Bull is also closing up on me, so I must be feeling some tyre wear now through Sector 2, because you can see that Red Bull visually is closing up on us quite rapidly, actually, there. So in clean air, even Ricciardo is very quick. But as I said, I would be very surprised if Leclerc didn't go and attack Ricciardo, and that's exactly what he's going to do now in the next few laps of this Grand Prix as we get on towards the last few, towards that lap 22. Leclerc on the outside at the bus stop chicane. Nice little dive there, trying to roll the car through. Ricciardo, though, gets the elbows out on the outside to try and defend that position there. The fight for P2 continues onto a brand new lap, and Hamilton is also there in the background. Maybe could he kind of catch both of them napping, maybe, as they're fighting each other hammer and tong as we go now towards Rouge. Will Leclerc have enough pace to maybe make a move to make it side by side up the hill? No, he won't. The Ferrari sticks behind right on the rear wing of that Red Bull, and the Mercedes is also right there. It could be 3 wide now down the Camel Straight, you know. Ferrari v Red Bull v Mercedes, the top 3 cars, the status quo. There it is. It's absolute art in motion there as the 3 are 3 wide momentarily. Leclerc now side by side with Hamilton, squeezes out the Brit, or tries to. Hamilton has the front locked in, rubbing tyres is with Leclerc's rear end there, and Hamilton doing all he can to keep that Mercedes side by side, or just trying to really put Leclerc off in a way and try and make an error potentially with all these little love taps there. But Leclerc is going to hold his own, it seems, as we go down the hill into the heart of Sector 2, and he's going to hold that P2 and use that pace then on those fresher, soft tyres to chase after me. And that's where we cut back to our POV then on lap 21, the second last lap of the Grand Prix, onto the last, and the rear tyres are fading on these mediums, and crucially also, we're running out of ERS at the end of the lap because I'm using a lot in the first sector to make sure we stay ahead, because these guys, as I said, are so quick off turn 1. But look at that, Leclerc has absolutely just embarrassed us in the last corner. No DRS, no ERS deploying for us. He must have had plenty as he shot through, but that's the pace of the soft compound. Is that fight over maybe? Maybe he's just going to waltz off now into the distance on the last lap of the Grand Prix. It surely can't end like this. We're going to continue to fight back. We're going to use plenty of ERS down this Kemmel straight. DRS open, but as I literally just mentioned, using this ERS in Sector 1 to catch back up to these guys may just kind of make us sitting ducks at the end of this same lap here. On the last lap, Leclerc could very much do the same thing he did on that second last lap as we go through Blanchimont now, and you can see in the bottom right in a second the ERS is gone. We're not deploying any ERS now, and Leclerc with a big dive, we go defensive, the rear end steps out, we're literally drifting through the last corner, we've gone wide on the rear end, there's no power, and the Ferrari comes through and across the line, and I think he got us. I think he did. It's second place. It's updated. It's second place. Leclerc has actually just done that. We've actually just been embarrassed by the AI on the last lap, the last corner. Oh my god. That is so frustrating. Leclerc, big dive. I'm so weak into this corner. I can never brake later than the AI because either my fronts lock up or I just can't make the corner. And then this was just absolutely just heartbreaking. Rear end steps out because my rear tyres are gone, so I drift through the corner. That doesn't help. And then when I get the car in a straight line, look at the power difference. I'm like a Fiat 500 compared to a sports car there, as our ERS is not deploying and the Ferrari has plenty. So we've had our pants pulled down at the end of it. We didn't even get a double podium. It's only one, and it's second place as Leclerc comes through to win it for Ferrari in a very surprising fashion.
Many doubted whether they could pull off the win here at Spa-Francorchamps, but they've done so in spectacular style. Talk to me, Ant. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
Well, I honestly feel it was down to the driver and car today. I mean, we can talk driver skill all day, but if you don't have a solid team to back that, you're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Looking at the podium, you can see that red suit familiar to fans across the globe. A world-class win for a world-class team. Ferrari do it again.
So there you have it. I really didn't think Ferrari had the pace for a race win anytime soon, but, you know, Leclerc with the alternate strategy, medium to softs, and clearly that Ferrari engine had plenty of ERS left in it. I did not. It was a risk I took on the last lap to re-overtake him, obviously in Sector 1, and as I said in the commentary at the time, in hindsight, I probably should have maybe not used as much ERS on that first sector to re-overtake him, because I needed some at the end of that straight, because, you know, with the drift, it was literally then impossible to get enough power down in time to get across the line in the first. So it's not often that I have my pants pulled down like that at the end of a race by AI, but there you go. Crazy stuff at the end there. Obviously, very entertaining for you guys, but for me, a little bit of a kick in the teeth in a way after doing such a good job of recovering from P8, overtaking Sainz in the way we did. Unfortunately for the team, it wasn't a great effort because Sainz pit, I don't know for what, damage with Ricciardo maybe, so a silly race all round really from both of us really. We did not maximise what could have been an easy 1-2, I think, if we played it a little bit better. So homework to do maybe for the next Grand Prix, Italy. Speaking about Italy, I may think about taking some big grid penalties for Monza, because it is a place where we can overtake in a straight line very easily. It may be the best place tactically to take those penalties, because we do definitely have to take at least some to get to the end of this season on the engine parts in terms of wearing out. So that's something to think about at the start of next episode. But that's been a enthralling Belgium Grand Prix right to the death, photo finish in a way, or a last lap, you know, drama, whatever you want to kind of call it. If you guys did enjoy it, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been aarava. Hope you guys enjoyed today. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.